Did that scare you? No? Well, these 10 movies might. That's right, we're doing a top 10 favorite horror movies list. This is a list that I kind of randomly just decided to do. Um, and I'm going to give a few little notes ahead of time here to just kind of clarify like what will and will not be on this list. Obviously, I won't tell you what's on the list. That will be down in the description below where the list is. So yeah, and I'm going to use probably trailer footage, I feel. It'll probably just be easiest. First of all, I will not be including Soul Station in this. Um, and the reason for this is because I have not gotten up my reaction on the channel to it yet. I feel including it in this list, which is going to be on the channel before the Halloween special, which is the reaction to Soul Station, would make really no sense. It would spoil kind of my thoughts on it and make watching the reaction not as fun. So I'm leaving Soul Station off the list. Just to keep that fair and all. But I guess it does give you some kind of semblance of idea of that I liked it, the fact that it otherwise would be on the list. But you don't know how much I liked it. So yeah. Either way, another thing to note is my taste in horror movies tends to be different from most people's. Um, for me, one of the biggest things about a horror movie, it has to scare you. It to some degree. It doesn't like have to make you like constantly be jumping and screaming or anything. No. But it has to legitimately frighten you in some way. And honestly, I tend to be some people have called me a horror movie snob because I tend to criticize most horror movies as not being scary. Um, Big examples of this would be anything pretty much from the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Um, Another big example would be The Exorcist. Movies like that I just don't find good. That are considered some of the greatest horror movies of all time. But it's just like they're not effective to me. Um, Now also, we have to talk about what constitutes a horror movie. Because I'm not just going to be talking about horror movies that are like just straight up like, like demons and constant scares and tension and shit. Um, in my eyes, a horror movie accounts for anything that has and uses horror themes consistently throughout the movie, which can include building tension. It can include demons, monsters, serial killers, all that kind of stuff. It just has to be used, even stuff like stalkers or something as kind of, I wouldn't say mundane, but more, uh, how do you put it? Just not as like directly scary, stuff like that, anything like that. Anything that uses those kind of horror tropes like consistently throughout the film. Anything that uses horror as a main theme to the movie, even if it's not necessarily scary or even trying to be. It has to at least have some scary situations or concepts to it. Because there are horror movies that I love, and some of which are on this list, that aren't actually scary per se, but the situations and concepts shown in the movies are. And it's like when you think about like how you would react in that situation, that's what frightens you. But actually watching it on the movie doesn't scare you, but that doesn't mean you don't love the movie, of course. Um, like I said, there's a couple great examples on this list. Um, so yeah, pretty much anything that utilizes any of those kind of typical horror tropes. I will not be counting, though, parodies or just comedic-centric horror films. Something like the Scary Movie franchise is a no-go. Because even though they definitely still have horror elements to them, they're parodies. They are straight-up parodies of scary movies. They're not meant to be taken seriously in any way. So I don't count stuff like that. Or another good example would be like Shaun of the Dead, which is a parody of zombie movies. Great movie. I love the movie, but I'm not counting it because I consider it, like I said, a parody and not a legitimate horror film. So that's kind of how I'm going to be seeing these for this. Um, but if otherwise, if it's a serious film, then it's good. Um, but yeah, so this list will basically just be my 10 favorites. There's no other real rules or anything behind like what I can and can't choose other than what I've already stated. Um, and as usual, this list will be clips, as most of these tend to be. It will be clips, so that the link it will be redirected down in the description below, just to keep safe with copyright bullshit. Um, if you want to know my choices, any like information or whatnot on my choices, my order, any of that, you can feel free to ask in the comments. I am willing to clarify anything you need me to, or just want me to. Um, but keep in mind, like I said, this is my list, and my views on horror films tend to be very different from a lot of people's. Um, so it's like, as I basically already kind of confirmed, there won't be any Nightmare on Elm Street films on here. Um, but yeah, it's like, so keep in mind it's going to be very different than a lot of people's. But tell me your thoughts as well. Like, tell me what you would put in your top 10. Do you agree with some of these choices, or most of these choices, or even none of them? And what would your choices be? Tell me all that and more down in the comments below. But first, check out the reaction. Wow. Check out the list, which once again is down in the description below. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy. Have a very happy Halloween.